According to President Joe Biden, the situation at the border has been improving, especially from the perspective of the children being held in absolutely horrendous conditions there. I want to show you a bit of his interview recently with NBC's Craig Melvin. Here he is talking about the situation.
There are 22,000 unaccompanied children in our country right now. That's a record. That sounds to most folks like a crisis.
Well, look, it's way down now. We've now gotten control.
Okay, so the overall number of 22,000 is not way down. That is still roughly true. But in terms of children being held in the sorts of facilities that thankfully the media has actually acknowledged over the past few months, that number is down. In fact, it's dropped by about 84% in the span of 1 month, which is a massive change. According to a White House official, bear that in mind. Additionally, as of Wednesday, there were 954 children in these CBP facilities, down from a peak of close to 6,000 at the end of last month. And the average time that kids are staying in custody is down to 28 hours compared to 133 hours back on March 28th. That is a nearly 80% reduction as well. So again, this is relying on official sources, and I can't honestly say what sort of constant access reporters have to these facilities, but it is a big claim to make if there's nothing that it's founded on. And so according to them, it looks like they have responded to pressure. They have spooled up some sort of resources to alleviate the situation, and it is much better than it was.
You know, I have a different point on this, which is that mainstream media here taking the bait, and we're talking about the so-called border crisis, right? Now, we have a massive healthcare crisis in this country. Here, let me give you just one stat. 45,000 people die every single year, irrespective of coronavirus. This is pre-coronavirus. 45,000 people die every year because they don't have health insurance. Now, do the immigrants crossing the border kill 45,000 Americans every year? No. I mean, that's not even, it's not even within the realm of comparison. And so that's an actual crisis. But mainstream media thinks, man, who cares? Because the right wing didn't make it a point. So, and the left wing is invisible. So I can name you 12 crises that are infinitely worse than the so-called crisis at the border. But to be fair to the media, look, progressives in the House, et cetera, and in the Senate, they gotta stand up. If the right wing goes, border, 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 and they go, Ted Cruz goes down there, does his survivor-like tapes there. They do fake illegal border crossings. They have CNN fall for it and show it, and they do like media tours, et cetera. And then when it comes to losing the $15 minimum wage, that's a crisis of 27 million people living at poverty levels, right? That's something that actually happens. That's actually their wages. They make $15,000 a year after working every single day, Monday through Friday for a whole year, right? But the left wing makes no deal out of it, no big deal at all. So when Biden is in front of the cameras, they don't ask him about any progressive things. All they do is ask him about the manufactured crisis of the right wing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to point out the stats around how much crime undocumented immigrants are actually responsible for. And it is vastly below percentage-wise what Americans and people with citizenship are responsible for. So obviously we have to point out that kind of fear mongering and hypocrisy. And look, I think it's great if the stats can be relied upon, that there is a process for moving unaccompanied minors more quickly out of detention in facilities that they should not be in the first place. But for whatever reason, whether it's COVID or whether it's making sure that they locate a family member within the United States, like that is good. Obviously, one thing that immigrant rights organizations are asking for is for a halt to deportations. Under Biden, there's been 300,000 deportations thus far. Obviously using like a COVID emergency package, pandemic emergency policy in order to deport more and more people to very unsafe regions that we've talked about before on TYT. But I think one thing that is heartening to see coming out of Biden is a little bit of the rhetoric. Because what I see when I see the media sort of like, oh, what are you doing about it? What's going on? Like, tell us. Is it the same thing they do when they ratchet up for war, which is they want like the iron fist, the strong macho, yeah, we're gonna reject everybody. We're gonna separate even more kids. We're gonna build a bigger wall. And Biden, I think, when the media, no matter what side, the left and the right, I mean, there's no left media, we are the left media, but the liberals and the right are like, well, there's more people coming because maybe they think that you're more amenable to them. And he started to turn that and say, I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed that my administration and the United States is maybe a more humane place to seek refuge than it was just months ago. So I think that's a huge page turn when it comes to our usual rhetoric around immigration.
Okay, now let me give Biden two pieces of quick credit here. Number one, look, it's less credit than just being fair to him. So he did inherit a mess from Donald Trump. That actually is true. And so moving those kids into places where they could be treated in a humane way, well, it does take some time. So, look, I give him no quarter on killing the $15 minimum wage, which he did happily, that no one else reports, and it drives me crazy. So I got no bias in favor of Biden at all. But it does take time to move those kids, and so we have to be fair to him in terms of how quickly he can do that. Now the credit is, he actually has a new thing where he is telling those Central American countries, we will process folks in your country, so don't have the kids come for thousands of miles because it endangers their lives. That might be a brilliant idea. That's the first I've heard of that, and that's really interesting. So if he can execute that, that would be an amazing plan.
Yeah, especially because, like, what's weird is we have to integrate multiple different things, some of which are accurate and some of which are not simultaneously. So people are freaking out. A lot of it is just being driven by right wingers wanting to do cosplay of Rambo, riding around in boats with machine guns and stuff like that. They don't care about what's actually going on, which is what's so frustrating about this is that they want to talk about a crisis at the border. Most of what they're talking about isn't accurate and they don't actually care. But there was actually a crisis, and that was that thousands of kids are being held in conditions they should never be held in. So, but they don't care about that part. And most of, like, Biden does have some seemingly better motivations and perhaps better ideas, as you just acknowledged. That said, he's also continued quite a few of the policies of the Trump administration. So this is not an area where he doesn't deserve any criticism or that we should extend tons of goodwill to him, because it doesn't appear that he totally deserves it. Now, they have improved the condition for the kids, which is something that Trump took a very long time to do, and the conditions got worse because he wanted them to. So that is better. But I don't know, it's frustrating when, like, when they make up a crisis from nothing, like that Dr. Seuss is a crisis, that is terrible. But when they make it up around something where there is actually work that needs to be done, that bothers me more. Because it sort of trains the media, like, to focus on a topic, to focus attention and effort on a topic, but to not acknowledge the actual human suffering that's going on. In this case, I feel like they did at least see the kids. They did seem to care about them. Craig Melvin was asking about the kids, so that's good. But I don't know, yeah, it's just frustrating that he can potentially be manipulated. The media can potentially be manipulated by these people who fundamentally don't care about the things they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know that Craig Melvin was asking about the kids in a way that was like, it seemed like he was asking more about, oh, there's too many immigrants coming in. Aren't you going to do anything about it?
Totally.
Right, totally. Francesca?
Yeah, no, I didn't get a lot of empathy from him. It was more like, what are you doing about these, non-subhuman people? Like, whatever, if they don't have names, Like, it's, there wasn't a, how are they being treated? Are they okay? Like, have you talked to them? Have you called? I mean, that's an interesting question. Have you met with some of these kids? And I guess I just want to say, look, we talked about the QAnon stuff and child abuse. There is rampant and documented child abuse within Customs and Border Patrol. And if there is one place to defund, it's CBP. Like, they have far too much money, one of the most amount of money out of any federal agency, and they haven't been doing their jobs. They've been brutalizing people. They're not helping them, and so I would like to see Biden actually vastly ramp down the amount of money that they get.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.